And we're happy to welcome in our buddy Matt George, the host of the Locked On Kings podcast, ABC 10. Matt figuratively won me some money last night by crying after the Kings clinch. Shout out to, I assume it was Kevin John who got it on film, but there was a discussion on Monday who will cry if the Kings clinch, and it was almost unanimous that Matt George would be the one, and indeed he is. And a very reserved Matt George is with us live from the lobby of his Portland hotel room. How you feeling, buddy?
Damn it. I knew I was going to pay off that bet. I tried so hard not to. That's actually another reason why I was selfishly hoping that it would clinch inside Sacramento, because I felt like it would have been more of a party and more of a celebration. In Portland, it was more.
You still would have cried. I just want to be clear. It would have been a celebration. You still would have cried. You probably would have cried more.
You might be right.
I know I'm right.
But
you would have cried more.
I don't know. Like, I expected, and you mentioned being reserved. Like, I've had a couple people. My wife said the same thing when I talked to her this morning. Like, I expected the party, and maybe the party's still coming. Like, maybe Matt needs to sleep in his own bed before Manny McQueen comes back out. But it's just been it's been reflection. It's just been reflecting on the journey, reflecting on getting here, reflecting on getting to this point, what it means, and that it's just finally here. And it's almost like De'Aaron Fox described it last night in the locker room as like a weight off the shoulders. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily feel that way for me, but just like a relief that it's not a talking point anymore. It's just, it's done. Like, no fan base should have to deal with what Sacramento Kings fans dealt with. Nobody should. And we should never even think about the possibility in hopefully professional sports period of any team getting to a 16-year playoff drought ever again. Like, it should not happen. You have to be almost impressively bad to do that. So it's over. It's done. And last night, like on the Locked On Kings podcast, even waking up this morning, it's just a feeling of, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful for being here. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity in my career to be able to be there for the moment in another city. And it's just a relief. I'm very happy for Kings fans, very excited for what's next. And I'm excited for the conversation later today and tomorrow to be about, okay, the moment is over. The celebration is here. And maybe we need one more home game for that to happen. But after that, it's okay. It's go time. It's let's get to work and let's talk about playoff basketball and how this Sacramento Kings team can make as deep a run as possible. I'm excited just to have a normal NBA conversation this time of year.
Yeah, and the fun thing about this is, with the way they played this year, the record that they have, when they've been able to clinch, we can take a day and just kind of reflect on everything and enjoy this and talk and we got time before we can even talk about the playoffs. Hell, the Kings aren't even going to know who they played till probably the last game of the season. So that's, 2 weeks from now? So, we can sit up here and we can reflect and we can say it gives us the time to reflect and enjoy. Because if it was, what a lot of people thought, and, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. If it was like a play-in situation where they got into the play-in and they won the playing game and won on Friday, they'd be playing on Sunday. We wouldn't even have time to think about this. It'd be right into the playoffs. So to have this type of opportunity to be able to reflect and enjoy this moment fully, it's something that isn't lost on me.
Absolutely. And the fact that it's guaranteed game one, the return to the playoffs is going to be in Sacramento. That's why I say, who cares? Who cares who the opponent is? I don't care if it's the Golden State Warriors and Warriors fans think they're going to take over the Golden One Center. Good luck getting a Sacramento Kings fan to sell their ticket to that game. Good luck trying to prevent the sea of purple that's going to happen inside the Golden One Center. I don't care if the Kings were playing a team that was right down the street. I don't care if the Sacramento Kings were playing a team from Roseville or a team from wherever. It doesn't matter who the Sacramento Kings play. Game one and game two are going to be special. They're going to be a celebration for a city and a moment for the city. And that's what's most important. But also, with that comes expectations. And that's what's been crazy about the course of the season is how expectations have shifted, how expectations have changed. To now it's to a point where, okay, with home court advantage, regardless of who you're facing, hey, the expectation should be you're coming out of that first round. And I know home court has been where Sacramento has sometimes struggled more than on the road over the course of the season, which is definitely something that they need to figure out. But one thing's for certain that they don't have to worry about is home court advantage for Sacramento. It's special. It's elite. And you hear people talk about all the time the Rattle Seattle series and how loud it was in that arena just before tip-off. Like, I expect the same thing inside the Golden One Center for whoever the Kings are playing on Game 1 and Game 2. I expect even crazier outside of the Golden One Center in the hours before and hours after that game, especially if there's a win. Like, this city has been beyond ready for this moment. And I know Sacramento's finally getting the national recognition it deserves from the same people that you guys were highlighting earlier that didn't necessarily believe in anything the Kings were doing. Now all of a sudden they want to be in the building and want a seat to be able to experience it. Okay, I guess come on in. But like, to me, it's the storybook ending is obviously a championship. The great ending would have been clinching on Monday night inside of the Golden One Center. But this season has been a dream come true for so many people.
If you were to do a regular season year-end Locked On Kings podcast, or you do a feature over at ABC 10 and you're telling the story of this Sacramento Kings season headed into the playoffs, where do you start your story?
Right at the Domantas Sabonis, Tyrese Halliburton trade, I think, is where you really have to start it. But that's where I start the story. But where I start the change is the Mike Brown hire. And that's where it takes some self-reflection on my part. Like, you guys were going through receipts and having fun with that, and I've had a lot of fun with that too. But I got to check myself too in the same way. Like, I was underwhelmed by the Mike Brown hire, and I said that on my podcast. I was going back and listening to former podcasts, and I went to the Mike Brown hire podcast, and I said I was underwhelmed because I know what Mike Brown can do, but it was just like there were kind of exciting other options out there, like a Darvin Ham and things like that kind of capture your imagination and capture your attention a little bit. And Mike has been there, done that. And from day one, I mean, he's proved everybody wrong. He's proved me wrong. And he had me a believer from the second he started speaking at his introductory press conference. And he's continued to prove it day in and day out, not take any credit for it. Like, when he was asked about a not local reporter, I think it was a Timberwolves reporter when they were in town, asked Mike Brown about potentially being coach of the year. Maybe it was an ESPN reporter or somebody. And Mike directed the attention to his training staff. He was like, the training staff and the performance staff, they're the ones that should be getting coach of the year for how well this team stayed healthy. So many things have gotten right. And that's why I've been so irritated by people saying, man, the Kings have just gotten lucky. The Kings have just gotten lucky. No, things have gone right. Players have played through injuries. Everybody has been on the same page, which is what Mike Brown has been preaching since day one. He stepped into this introductory press conference and he talked about the soul of the organization. Now, everybody has to buy into what they're doing and be united in what they're doing. And the organization has embraced that. And that is significant because most organizations do that. We don't even think about it. But for Sacramento, where it's been losing and a culture of sometimes toxicity and just struggle for so long, where we could clearly see disconnect between basketball ops and business, or the coaching staff and the front office, or players in front office, like whatever it was, we could see disconnects. And the fact that we could see them from an external viewpoint means there were definitely severe cracks. Those have been patched, those have been filled, and it began with Mike Brown. So that's where the change began. That's where the culture shift started. But the story begins with the Domantas Sabonis trade.
Hey, Matt, take us into the Moda Center last night. Were you able to talk to some of the players, or just the vibes in the building? It seemed like there was a good amount of Kings fans there. I don't know who these young ladies are, but they have season tickets courtside.
Yeah,
and they made the trip. I thought that was pretty cool to see them there. So it seemed like there was a good amount of Kings fans in the building last night. What was the vibe in the building? And like I said, I'm not sure if you were able to go into the locker room or postgame, but even postgame, what was the vibe like?
Well, first off, I want to start with sharing love for Portland Trailblazers fans, because they were top class. Like, they were coming up to when they found out we were Sacramento media, when they saw other Sacramento Kings fans in the building when I was around, they were coming up, just shaking hands, saying, hey, congratulations, we're happy for you. Like, we know what this means to you. And then they stayed and continued to, like, I didn't see too many this game got to 30, 40 points in the fourth quarter, and there weren't too many heading for the exits. Like, they knew what they bought tickets for. They knew what they were in for. It was funny. We were laughing watching the intro video. The Portland Trailblazers put together a pretty cool intro video, and it featured every single player not playing in the game. Like, there wasn't a single player in that intro video that played in the game. So fans knew what they were there for, and they stayed. They supported that team. I remember plenty of games like that at the end of the season that Sacramento Kings fans have sat through, but they were watching a Kings team that was still not trying to tank, whereas the Portland Trailblazers, we know what they're trying to do right now, shutting people down. So Blazers fans were absolutely top-notch last night. There were a lot of great Kings fans in the building. I met a couple Kings fans who were originally from Sacramento but live in Alaska and flew from Alaska down here. And there were a lot of Kings fans that were around the area that share with me. I've had these tickets forever, and I've almost been rooting for this scenario, rooting against the Kings clinching and other opportunities so that we could have this moment here in Portland. So the fan experience was great. Going into the locker room, first off, I know the guys have kind of played it cool, right? They've expected to be here. Mike Brown has put this expectation in their heads. There wasn't a major celebration after the final buzzer or anything like that. And I know some Kings fans maybe were a little disappointed by that. There's no Pat Bev jumping on the scores table, swinging the shirt around. But
in Portland.
yeah, but
we're going to the Nike employee store, baby. Let's go.
As soon as we got back in the tunnel, the media got back in the tunnel, you just hear a party happening inside that locker room. So we didn't see it, but we heard it. And we heard the music, and we heard the yelling, we heard the high five, and we just heard how much it meant to that team. And then, of course, when we got in there, started talking to the guys, it was kind of back to playing it cool, and we're happy to be here and happy to give this for the fans. Our work's just getting started. So this team is very focused, but I think it means a lot more to them than they're letting on. Mike Brown was the one who kind of divulged the most and talked about what it meant for Kings fans and how happy he was to bring that for Sacramento Kings fans. He also, after his press conference, thanked the Sacramento media and congratulated the Sacramento media for being able to accomplish this as well. So I think on the outside, the Kings want to make it look like, hey, we've been there, we've done this. But on the inside, I know this was special to them, especially to De'Aaron Fox. And they're ready to keep proving and go further for the city. Not just they're not stopping here.
I want to talk a lot more about De'Aaron Fox as we continue. You're listening to D'Lo and Casey on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRX QHD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, always live on the free Odyssey app, live on twitch.tv/ESPN1320 and youtube.com/ESPN1320. Shout out to everyone who's watching on YouTube and Twitch. And I do mean everyone. We are happy that you're here with us, and we hope that you jump in the chat and share your thoughts. And since we're pulling receipts and sharing bad takes, I got to dig deep for this one, all the way back to yesterday. My apologies to Alex Lynn. I felt with Alex Lynn. Alex Lynn played well yesterday, right? And not only did he play well, everyone's talking about how they're emotional and how I felt like the biggest jackass when he got the defensive player of the game chain, and I saw the reaction of that locker room, and I just thought I need to quit my job. I went hard on Alex Lynn yesterday. Well, I didn't go hard on him, but I was like, his minutes they're not good, they're wasted, they're tough, and that man played well yesterday. His teammates clearly love him. Yeah. What a great reaction to him getting the defensive player of the game chain.
And the thing I love, Matt, real quick, is who was the first one? You see the first one?
Was it Chemezi?
It was Chemezi.
Yeah.
Chemezi was the first one.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Hey, Lynn, let's go. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
love it.
I know we haven't really talked about the game yet, and there's probably not much of a reason to, but the one thing that really stands out, I thought Alex Lynn was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what you're talking about, Kenny, with Chemezi stepping up is the same thing we've been talking about with Rashawn, who's clearly not happy with his situation. Rashawn being hype on the bench. You would never know it from any guys who maybe aren't happy with their role. You would never know it with this group. And again, it all goes back to Mike Brown and what he instilled in that contract that he had everybody sign, which said, you're going to be all in. You're going to give 110% to what we're trying to do here. And every single one of them signed it, and they've stayed committed to that. And I asked De'Aaron last night in the locker room, I said, you've been on some special teams, mainly his Kentucky team over the course of just his basketball life. But what makes this team unique? What makes this team special? And he talked about the togetherness of this group. And then I asked Mike Brown, I said, over his time in Golden State, they got to a point where that fan base expected success no matter what. The expectation was just success. And he came to Sacramento with the expectation that he was going to win here, and he has delivered. And I asked him, what have you seen from this group that Sacramento Kings fans should see and expect success from? And he talked about how this team is going to always compete. They're going to play together. They're going to buy in to what they're supposed to do. And it's just it's almost like a maturity of a group that hasn't been together very long, but understands what's at stake, understands what's going on. And we've always talked about this being kind of a vibes year, right? This is a year just of good vibes. The expectations come next year and maybe come in these upcoming playoffs, but this year has just been vibes and fun. But they've been enjoying the vibes while establishing the expectation. They've had feet in both pools, right? Because Mike Brown has been instilling championship tendencies in them from day one, and we've seen those develop over the course of the year, and we've seen players embrace them to where, sure, they don't act excited when they make the playoffs, so they don't outwardly show how much it means to them as much as Sacramento Kings fans are, but that's because the focus is on tomorrow. Like De'Aaron Fox, we've talked a lot over the course of the season about De'Aaron Fox's demeanor on and off the floor. It just seems like a cool confidence, like, yeah, we belong here. It's the first time I've been here in my NBA career, but I'm going to act like I belong here because I know I belong here, or I'm going to act like I've been here many times before, all 6 years of my career. So that's what just makes this team so different to me, is they look like they've been there, done that, even though they haven't yet. And they're a group that is cohesive, that believes in one another, that is willing to play with one another. And as they've proven statistically and in multiple games too, when one guy goes down, another guy is capable of stepping up. And whatever guy goes down, whether it's for injury or for a coaching decision, that guy is going to lift the other guy up. That's unique.
Yeah. Anything stand out from last night from you, like any unique moment or anything like that? It was, I know when you talk about the game specifically, I was sitting on the couch. I was like, bro, they're not going to do this today, right? Like, because every time it looked like they were trying to pull away, Shaden Sharp would get like 5 points and get it back to a 5-point lead. And they got it to like, I think 18.
Oh,
well, they got it to like 18 in the third.
Oh, in the third.
And I was like, all right, cool. And I went and I had to change Ryan's diaper. And I come back down and it's 30. I said, where did that come from?
I think Ryan and the Trailblazers were doing the same thing at the time. Like they were. I had it in the note. Not that it matters. It's in the notes here somewhere. It was a 44-18 run from the start of the second half, like 4 or 5 minutes into the Blazers didn't score to start the fourth.
No.
That was after. And there's probably a time, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's Friday, maybe it's not for a while. There's probably a time that we need to talk about these third quarters that the Sacramento Kings are having. If Bonte's listening, if Shasky's listening, if Matt Nahigan is listening, y'all could do with this whatever you want. But you remember there was a time when the Warriors were making their ascension, and you knew when that third quarter got here, they could put you to bed. Now, the Sacramento Kings are not at that point yet, but they've been at that point a lot recently where they've opened up in these third quarters, Matt, and have had really, really big performances. Of course, they were playing a version of a G League team last night. So
yeah, but that's where I asked Harrison Barnes about this last night. I said, Harrison, some people are going to discredit you holding a team to 80 points, saying, look at the roster they threw out there. And Harrison said, they're still NBA players. Like, no, it's not the best roster that they put out there, but these are still NBA players that know how to score. And there were impressive moments from multiple different Blazers that were playing. Like Kevin Knox was playing really, really well last night, I thought.
He always plays against the Kings.
I was impressed by a lot of what the Blazers were doing. What happened to me, what stood out to me was in the second half, the Sacramento Kings established themselves. And what I mean by that is the first half of this game offensively looked like the majority of the Blazers game, where the Kings were getting good looks. They were facing a 2-3 zone defense a lot of the time, and the Kings have struggled against that, especially when they're not hitting shots. The Kings were getting a lot of good looks in that first half, and they just weren't dropping. Keegan Murray should have broke the record in the first half, but he just kept missing open threes, and that was happening for everybody over the course of the last handful of games. And then those shots started dropping. And then this team started feeling themselves a little bit. And then they knew the moment was approaching, and then everybody wanted it on the action, and it became a floodgates. That's how it went from 15 to 30 to 40 so quickly.
Yeah.
Like everybody wanted it on it. In baseball, you'll see when there's like a hit parade going on, or guys are getting 1 or 2 hit games, you'll see a lot of guys in the lineup get 1 or 2 hit games. Like everybody wants a piece. Everybody wants to jump in on the action. It's just momentum, I guess. So, and that's what I noticed last night. But regardless of who the Sacramento Kings are playing, to hold a team to 80 points is significant for this group. I mean, 120 seems like they can score that in their sleep, and they have this season. But to hold a team to 80 points, regardless of the situation, that's significant. They consistently made the Portland Trail Blazers work the entire game. And while certain guys had certain moments, and there were moments where the Kings just made inexcusable mistakes, like allowing offensive rebounds to players shooting threes inside the paint, just didn't make any sense. They just had kind of lethargic start to it. The game is I guess how you would describe it. They figured it out, they turned it on, and defensively they really stepped up. That's what really stood out to me from a basketball standpoint of last night's game, and the fact that the Kings put up 120 points, and you go down the box score, and there was no guy doing 25, no guy doing all the scoring himself. It was balanced, and that's what this Kings team has been all season long, is balanced scoring. Anybody can get you at any given time.
Matt, is there anything specifically you want to see from this team, in the next 2 weeks? Is, there is a bit of a, I want to say outside chance. They can get the 2. Like Memphis lost last night. They got the Clippers again tomorrow. Kawhi will be playing in that game. And if the Kings handle Portland.
Kawhi's ramping up. Biggest wild card in the NBA.
And if the Kings handle business again, they'll find themselves on Saturday morning 1 game behind the Grizzlies with the tiebreaker. So I say all that to say, I mean, either way, there'll still be 2 or 3. But is there something specific you want to see? Is it just rest? Do you want to see them like working on different things, or what are you looking for in the next couple of weeks?
I guess the best way to answer this, and this is kind of a vague way to answer it, is like just continuing to establish good habits. And Mike Brown knows more about that than we do. But continue to work. Don't take plays off. Don't just accept that you've made the play. Like the one thing I'm looking forward to watching the next game, this next game against Portland. How do the Kings look? They've clinched. They've already beat this team. They beat the brakes off this team the night before. Do they walk out and go, man, we got this? Like, and just act like they don't. I just don't want to see the Kings act that way. I don't want to see an arrogance from Sacramento. And they've not disrespected anybody this year, or they truly haven't. They've not taken any opponent lightly, even if they've had bad losses to teams like Charlotte or Washington. Mike Brown won't allow that. This coaching staff won't allow them to walk into a game acting like arrogant jerks. Like they're not. So I'm not necessarily talking about that kind of arrogance, but is this a team that walks out and looks at this like this game doesn't matter anymore? We've already clinched, what, blah, blah, blah. When no, these games are your build-up, your preparation for the playoffs. And in that sense, what you're talking about, rest, Kenny, like, can you do well enough in these games that you're supposed to win? Tomorrow night's game, the San Antonio game, to where De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis don't have to play more than 22, 23 minutes. Let them rest in that way, but it's because you're handling your business when they're on the floor together. You don't want to just shut everybody down so that they haven't played a competitive basketball game in 2 weeks and then play game 1 likely against the Warriors or the Suns or Clippers or whichever team in that range. There's an argument to be made why they'll beat the Kings, and there's an argument to be made why the Kings will beat them. Like, that's the reality of the situation in that spot. So I just want to see the Kings continue to establish good habits, continue to play the right way. And I like the fact that they've been talking about 50 wins. Like, you've asked them about clinching the playoffs. I said 50 wins, 50 wins. That's the goal, 50 wins. Okay, play like 50 wins is still the goal. Go and get those 50 wins. And if you're going to accomplish that, you need to win the majority of these games to end the season. If that's really your goal, prove it to me with how you play. That's pretty much what I'm looking for.
They should be at 48 by Monday. I mean, you got the Blazers and the Spurs.
Yeah.
48 with like 5 to go or something like that.
I think I might have to go Sunday too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I Matt brought this. I think there's going to be a response on Sunday. That
text Jazz for me.
Maybe. Can Kenny come outside? Hey guys, October 28th, 2022. Matt in the 916. Guess who he's replying to?
Matt George.
At Grant Napier Show.
Oh my gosh.
He says, Matt in the 916 says, Kings are an embarrassment to Sacramento. Mike Brown was the wrong hire. He is pathetic. Monty is garbage. Vivek, the Warrior fan, needs to sell. Sacramento deserves better. Another dismal season for the pitiful Kings.
I probably shouldn't rename my burners after my name. It's probably not a smart idea for me.
Oh man.
Matt in the 916 hasn't tweeted much since then.
Yeah, that's the other part of the bit. We need to see what they've been talking about since then.
Here, he responded to our man Aaron Brewski last night.
Well, he's just hitting all the.
It's been rough, but glad Kings are once again playoff bound.
I don't know what his list looked like.
Oh, he hit up Scott Moe. Get the playoff intro voice ready.
Oh, now he's just on.
Oh, he responded to Deuce Mason. No more ping pong balls.
Now he's just on. He's just with us now. Like, oh yeah, it's all good.
Now,
Get
mind
the playoff voice ready.
mind you, just a few minutes before he hit up Jason Anderson, who tweeted the first quarter score. Blazers 20, Kings 19. Matt in the 916 said, of course, so standard Kings. I love Twitter, man. I love Twitter, and I love you, Matt. This reserved Matt George is a little bit different for us.
I don't know if I like it or not, but
maybe you're still maybe you just need to go home and a good cry. Maybe that's just get a good, not like the little mini Kevin John is filming me cry, but the full on
ugly face.
Yeah, ugly tears, like you don't even want to do it in front of your wife, like that type of cry.
I just need the moment in the Golden One Center is what I need. I'm ready for that moment. I'm ready for that.
Cry again.
I don't know. Who cares? Yeah. If I do, great. Like that's the thing. Like
I'll have you film. I just want to make sure I see it.
Fine. I mean, I didn't. I don't know. Like I don't cry about things too often. I never cried about a sports thing in my life, truth be told. But like
Matt,
it'll take you there.
You're allowed to cry.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's okay.
But what I mean, like, it's just. Like last night and talking to fans and interacting with fans, like the best part about the podcast that I put out way too late last night was I had a segment where I had Sacramento Kings fans send me videos of what it meant to them, just to listen to them. And like I say, I fell in love with the game of basketball as a kid going to in the late 90s, but I fell in love with Kings crowds. I fell in love with the energy of Arco Arena. I fell in love with Arco Thunder and cowbells and things like that. And now that energy, while it's diminished, it hasn't ever gone away. But like to build a career for me personally, to build a career around the team that I love and to build a career around the fans and be able to interact with the fans that I grew up with and that I respect and admire so much and appreciate so much. It's just, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about what the moment meant for the city and the relief of everybody and how it was all worth it. And that's where it kind of led to that moment. So I'm just, again, the reserve Matt George it's not reserved because I don't know. It's not just because I'm in a hotel lobby. It's the reserve Matt George I'm just thankful. I'm grateful today. Just feeling grateful. I'm feeling enjoying this moment as much as possible. And then the obnoxiousness will come back, especially when I start reading about Rudy Gobert saying the NBA wanted the Kings to win, or hearing Warriors fans saying that the Warriors would smoke the Sacramento Kings or whatever. And I'm on Team Kenny Caraway, and I love Bonte Hill, but I'm on Team Kenny Caraway, ride or die with those boys over in the Bay Area. So I'm ready to get obnoxious in the build up to the playoffs. I don't care who the Kings play. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun, and the Kings absolutely should be taken seriously. The obnoxiousness will return. Don't you worry. The McQueen will flow again. As of right now, I'm just grateful. I'm thankful for everybody, including you two.
Good stuff, man.
Awesome
Safe travels
job out there, man.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks for taking us into Portland with you, and get home safely.